Hey, Wendy, how you doing?
Hello. Well, yeah, I'm here.
We're live, but not live yet. We are
No,
live over on the YouTube stream,
pre-live.
and everybody who's joining us know that we go live on the radio at 4:03. So everybody just kind of stand by. We're just making sure we're all set up,
Yeah,
and I think we've got this down. This whole setting up thing.
to a fine art.
Yes. And so, in about 2 minutes, we will go live with the show.
Isn't it like this is the first time we've been back? It's like 2 months, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were off for about 4 months and then did episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah.
And then we were off for a couple of more months.
I know.
And so
It's
we are
been
now back
tough, really tough.
and hopefully make it a habit of being back.
Yes. Yes, I've
So,
missed you.
yes. So, hey, Field Guy and Rapid Dog, good to see you.
Ah, field guy.
And whoever else is gathering out there. We'll be rolling in just about a minute and 15 seconds. We'll go live. So you get the rare privilege, everyone, of seeing the pre-show before we hit the radio waves. So, and you'll be able to see this show in archive starting tomorrow.
Yes.
Both on my YouTube
Reruns.
and over on Odyssey Radio. Hey, Carlene Smith, two of her favorite people. Why, thank you, darling.
She's very sweet.
Yes. I hope the move in has gone well. I hope you got the U-Haul fixed. They got stranded on the road a couple of days ago. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're not still sitting on the side of the road.
Can you imagine
So,
if they were? Colleen would be giving them hell.
oh my. Hey, John. How you doing? He says, hello, you two. So we're going to get into it here in just about 20 seconds, 15 seconds. So what we're going to do right now, folks, we're going to go dark and the show will start and we'll be back.
Play
So
that
sit
tune.
tight. Stand by. Here we go. Going dark. Hey, folks, welcome to the program. I am Scotty Roberts. I'm the Roberts part of the Robertson. And over there to my, what looks like my left, is Wendy Robertson. Wendy, how you doing today?
Oh, it's so nice to be back. It's like I was just
It
listening
is.
to that music and I was like, I have missed that music.
Yes. And so I meant to say, how you doing?
How
But
you
it came
doing?
out, how you doing today? So it was being very formal. So it's good to be back. We, as you all know, we ran a whole first season of shows, and then we came back for the first episode of season 2, and we had a lot of hiatus going on in there. All different kinds of things going on. Most of you know what's been going on in each of our lives and things that have happened, health issues, all the way around the horn for just about everybody, and all different kinds of things. So we're back today, and we said we cannot.
Yeah.
And frankly, there were things over the last couple of days where we said, should we push it out another week? And we said, no,
No.
let's get going again.
Come hell or high water.
Hell or high water. And she says it better. Everything she says sounds better
Thank
because she's
you.
got that accent. So I want to just say hi to people. We've got John Harold. John, I've never known how to say your hyphenate name. Harold Risavi Piper, is it? John Piper, I've always called you. Carlene Smith is here, field guy. We got Rapid Dog, Carlene. Good to see you, Carlene. I hope your move went well. You're back up in Vermont now. Elvis is in the building. And we got Sandra Saunders. She is here. And Annette Hunt Keenan. Good to see you, Annette. And Tracy Willis. And Cordia is here. Spirit Heart, Gods and Goddesses. And they keep coming in. Helene is here. Hey, Helene. Good to see you. She's over in your neck of the woods, Wendy.
Well,
As
there's a
is
few of
Sandra.
them that are over in my neck of the woods, and I'm like, at least my buddies are here to back me up.
There it is. Say, I just listened to. I love reading books. I've got books on it. This is still sitting here from last night. I was talking about the book Exodus last night, and this is a first edition. I like these. I love a book. I love a hardcover book. If I get a book and I like it, I'll buy it in hardcover because I want it in my library. So I've got thousands of books like that. I signed up for one of those. What is not Audible? Is it Audible? It's a audiobook club, and you pay $15 a month, something like that, and you can get audiobooks. And I picked up Patrick Stewart's book,
Oh,
his new book, Make It So. Is it Make It So or Making It So? And he read the book himself. Now, I got it in audio because I like to work when I'm designing on the computer,
yeah, you can
or
listen.
not when I'm writing. I'll listen to soft music in the background when I'm writing. But if I'm designing, creating art, I like to have something to listen to that's meaty. And so that's Sir Patrick Stewart to me, said Field Guy. And so it was basically his autobiography. And he read it himself, and he was very passionate and animated,
He's
and
wonderful, isn't he? Yeah.
he's a wonderful voice. There were things about him I did not know. He grew up in Yorkshire, and
Yes, he
so
is.
he
He's a
said he had
Yorkshire
that
man.
northern
Mm.
accent, and he would put on the accent every now and then, and he said it just wouldn't do for many things as he was getting into theater, and so he talked about the book isn't about, a lot of your Star Trek fans will pick that up because they want to hear him talk about Star Trek. Well, he doesn't get into that until quite late in the book, even though he has a couple of mentions of things. It's about his whole life, his career, growing up and as a teen, and how he started getting into theater and how he did this and that. And he talks about his idiosyncrasies and his failures and his successes and his the things that his what's the word I'm looking for? The things that we let hold us back, his insecurities, things like that. And it was really a good book. But when I talk about your accent, I think about his accent and how it's refined over the years. He says, but there are times where he can slip back into that northern. I can't even do it.
It's true.
Affected, but you know what that would sound like.
Well, it's true
Yorkshire
because
area and
he did I think he did a commercial for Yorkshire Tea or something over here.
oh,
But he has a wonderful voice, and a lot of guys and actors from the north, like literally, they have that very powerful voice. And but I think accents change because when I lived in Canada for 2 years, my English accent became softer because I had to. They didn't understand me because the English speak really, really quick, and we have all this different slang and different words, and
sure.
so I had to tone it down. And I remember when I came home, I was like waiting for my family to say, "God, you sound Canadian." They were like, "Oh, hi." And I think that what happens is you slip. When you're around. When I was married to an Irishman, he would be around his family and he would have this really strong West Belfast brogue. And I'd be like, how come you don't speak to me in that? And he goes, because you don't speak it back to me.
Ah,
And he would slip in and out of the accent. But I think Patrick Stewart, I was just reading about him today, and he was saying that he actually wants to do. It's got the TNG. He wants to do the new generation films. He wants to make some more,
Yes.
and I think that's wonderful because I think we've had a huge gap, and I would love to see that.
I just saw that he was saying something about wanting to do
Yeah,
one more next generation
we
film,
need that.
and he was saying something about um, sorry everyone, shh, I'm on radio. All right, bye, see you. There you go. I am so mean. I'm so mean, folks. Wendy, I'm so mean.
Obviously, yes.
So my children are still at that. Everybody knows I let them interrupt during my show. I try not to do it as much as this show, but nobody was here, so I didn't get the warning out ahead of time. But
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart had said after he finished the series, Next Generation in 94, 95, they came back to him and they offered him the movies, and he did the movies. But then they came back to him again, and when they came back to him for, I think it was Picard,
Mm-hmm.
he said, my agent talked to me. I said, absolutely not. He says, that's done. It's in the past. I've moved on. I'm doing different things now. And he said that he was um, tempted right away. He still went to the meeting. He said, which tells you something. He says, in the back of my head, I was like, convince me. And of course, he did it. And Picard, especially the
Yeah, it's
third season, he
wonderful.
did say when he entered into Picard, he said, I do not want this series, and this was in his book. He says, I don't want it to be about the next generation crew. He says, I want it to be about Picard, about something, about the man, his life as he's moved on from that. And he wanted it to be different. And of course, they had tidbits all the way through, but the
Mm-hmm.
third season was extraordinary.
Yes,
Probably, I would say, in my appraisal, the very best season of Star Trek ever done
it was so
since the
good.
original. So,
Really, really good. I mean, I love Star Trek, but and Picard's my favorite. But it's just as in the captain. But I thought it was an amazing series, and it's when it kind of finished, I was disappointed with how it ended
yeah.
because they were just kind of around a table playing cards, and yeah, it was great. They were all back
Oh,
together, but I was really disappointed. I was kind of looking for that something that just led to believe whether it went on, whether it didn't go on, but something that just wet your
he
whistle.
had, he said he had a different ending that he wanted them to do, and they just didn't do it. They ran out of, he said it was actually filming time. We just ran out
Mm,
of time and couldn't do it. But he liked the card scene because that hailed back to the original series.
mm-hmm.
They'd always sit around playing poker. And I think did they end the series
Yeah,
with them playing poker in
they
the
did.
last episode
Yes,
of the
yeah, they
series?
did in the bar. Yeah, yeah, they did.
And yeah, but Field Guy's probably right. He said then they gave him give him the title of Dark Overlord and $20 million, and he said, "Well, okay then." John Piper has got to sign off and get back to the book writing. I'll catch you YouTube later. I gotta talk with you about your book. I want to hear about what you're doing, John.
I actually can't
So,
see any of the comments coming up, so you're going to have to tell
oh
me.
no,
No, you have to tell me because obviously I'm
um,
not in my
that's
usual
odd.
place. I'm not in my usual place, so I'm here. And usually at home I've got the big screen and I can see everything, so I
Yes,
can't. But it's like we were so determined to bring Robertson back because we were like it's got to happen, and
yes,
life is crap and there's so much stuff going on and it's constant stresses, and we were like we need that hour just to because you've got your show and it's one way and it was ours is very different, and we didn't come back with a theme this time this show
mm-hmm.
because as you wisely put it, let's just do it. let's
Let's
just
just
do the
do it,
show.
Wendy.
Let's just do it.
We've only been
And
saying that for 20 years.
well, you have, yeah. Let's just do this. Let's just do this and bring the show back, so that we ease into it.
Right. Right.
And I was like, okay.
Well,
So
and that's what I
yeah,
said. She said, "What should we do?"
I
And I
know.
said, "Nothing. We're just going to come on and we're just going to talk."
Because
And
next week will be hopefully a really good one because it will be Halloween.
yes,
And look, and we will, I'm sure, have an amazing topic
yes,
for that show. And I just wanted to pick up because while I'm allowed to, it's
yes,
like
please.
you have your show and I have mine, and we have ours. And I've missed Robertson so much, and I missed
Yes,
working with you. And even though I pop on and off your show, I don't get a chance to. I haven't had a chance to talk to you for quite a long time because my
I
life has
know.
been so
It comes
hectic.
and goes.
And I saw the comment about, like, Wicked Women was stopped due to the rain. And I think it's really hard for people to understand that you have four people with very, very different lives.
Yes,
And one of them has a very sick little girl, and one of them is going through a lot of stress with her mom. I have a incredibly lot of stress going on in my life, and another lady, she's got it too. And you try and get together like we did with Robertson. You try and get together and do the show, and then something happens last minute, and you're like, well, if we can't bring this show in, we've got to
right.
cut it. And it's been so frustrating to not
Yes.
be able to do that. So when I spoke to you and I was like, let's just do this, come hell or high water, let's just do it. And it's
Yep.
easier because there's the two of us. um
Well,
I
when
think
you have
more,
an ensemble cast,
it's
it's very
different.
easy for
Yeah,
one person gets sick and drops off for
yeah,
the show. Well, then you've got to regroup a little bit, then two, and
yeah.
then you're like, okay, we're really down in ranks. Let's see what we can do. And sometimes you had like what happened to Wicked Women last week.
Yeah, like literally, I mean, half an hour before we were due to go on, Val got really sick and she had to pull out. Michelle had collapsed that
Oh my.
morning and had been rushed to hospital. And
Michelle, I hope you're doing well.
she's doing better, but she's getting married in 2 weeks, and
Oh,
she's got heart issues. And because Carly's been taking care of her little girl, as you know, Kinsey, who's been going through so much. So it was really only me left
right.
standing, and I was like, do you know what? I just, I just want to bring a good show. And I think that's why when we spoke about doing Robertson, we were like, let's just do it. Let's just do the
Yeah.
show, and then, like, get back into the swing of doing it, and
Yes.
then like come back with the theme. So and maybe, I think being away from each other has actually given me a lot of time to think about the impact that Robertson has had on my life, because
Yeah.
it's literally changed me and changed my life. I had never done, I mean, I did Strangely Us with Mark.
Mhm.
And a lot of people say, when is that coming back? And I'm like, you have to ask Mark on that one. But it's like, it was very, very different. And this really changed my life, like working with you and meeting everybody, and taking all the different subjects we do. Robertson has had a great impact on me as a person, and I'm really grateful for it.
Well, I'm glad we did it. We talked about it for a long time before
Yeah, we
we
did.
actually did it. And
Yeah.
do you know, since we did our last show, look at how fast the world has changed around us.
Oh my
I
God.
mean, there's a lot of things that are the same,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
but look at what's going on. Michelle Canham Free, she says humanity's going through the ringer right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and maybe there's more to it than just politics and world events and things like that. But look where we were a year ago when we started
Absolutely.
compared to now.
And
Some things are the same and will never change. Some
we're
things are
almost
very
at
different.
the year mark as well, because it
We're
was,
at
I
the year
believe,
mark.
the beginning of the November. And I
Yes.
remember being so nervous about doing the show with you. And actually, our first show I was checking it out the other day. It's got a load more view. People have watched it and liked it, and you just think,
Yeah.
wow, this is great. And one of my favorite shows that we did, we've obviously, there's a lot to pick from, was when the red, when what was it, oh my God, Demonic Hollywood. I absolutely really loved that show, because it was something to get our teeth into. And I think that when we started Robertson and Robertson, we were like, where are we going to go? What are we going to talk
What are we
about?
going to do with this?
What are we going to do? And we were like, well, maybe we'll talk about the psychic side of you and do some readings, which we've never done,
We've never done that.
I've never looked to do that.
We've only done like 2 historical types of shows.
Yeah, like we did. And Hampton Court, I think it was. And and I think we've done a lot of love and passion and sex. And people seem to like, I've had people, I mean, they still do every week. Here's a topic for Robertson. Here's a topic for Wicked Women. And it's so nice that I can pick and choose and go, this will be great for Scotty and me, because it's coming from from his point of view. And so for me, it's changed my life. It's really changed my life, because then I went on to do Wicked Women, and I've had people message me and say, I want you on my podcast, let's do this. And it's really changed my life. And I think, thank you for giving us this chance to do it, Scotty, because without you, we wouldn't be here.
Without you, there wouldn't be Robertson. It would be Robertson
Roberts
and Roberts. So which we got all the time anyway.
Yeah.
So and I've always enjoyed doing radio with you. And so doing this show when we started out, was something different.
Yeah.
It was, I'd had you on a few of my shows and you called in quite a bit, but it was different. It's us.
Yeah.
And people seem to, maybe it's a little bit, not to give out the trade secrets or anything, but maybe it's a little bit because there is energy between you and I. Let's just leave it at that. That we can get into the kinds of topics we get into, the love, the romance, the sex, we can be naughty if we want to. See how I say naughty? It sounds like naughty because I'm from America. Yeah. But you say it like
naughty.
There. And, we can get into that stuff. Yeah. And because of the chemistry you and I have. And I hope that plays well to everybody. Everybody seems to like that. And so I think that's what we started to capitalize on with this show. There's
a trust and a bond.
Yeah.
There's a trust and a bond, and also the fact that you've got my back and I've got yours. Yes. But I also think as well that we bring different elements and energies, and I like the fact that this show is so different to your other one, because it was like I wanted it to be very different. And there have been times that we've talked about issues that have made us cry over the year, that have been really emotive for us, and we've always tried to be very open and very personal and very down to earth about what is important to us as human beings. But I think we've also shared our private life as well, some of it.
Yes.
Some of it.
Not
all of it.
We can't go everywhere.
No.
But
do you remember the first one when they accused us of having a flirt fest?
Yes, somebody said you two are just having a flirt fest.
Yeah.
And that same person came back. It was a flirt fest to a certain degree, but it's because it was the first time we were doing a show together. That was you and I, and we were giving a little bit of our history, and it turned into a flirt fest. It's hard. I will tell you, there are times it's hard for me to get into very casual conversations with you and not turn it into the flirt fest. We've known each other that way for a long, long time. And so it turned into that. But that very same person who kind of meant that as a criticism came back and said, I kept watching though, and I found out it wasn't just a flirt fest.
No.
And it's not. Those are the, when you hear that with Wendy and I, it's because there is, what do you call it? The connection we have is there. And so we do that. Our history is there. We do that. But because it's fun. And I wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun. If Wendy was uncomfortable with it, I wouldn't do that. And vice versa. We do that because we're comfortable with it. And then that allows us I think, to break the ice a little bit with some of the deeper topics we get into.
Yeah.
If we can joke around about and be lighthearted about being flirty, we can certainly break into topics when we're talking about rape or abuse within a relationship, and all of those things. They're all things we're able to talk about.
And I think a lot of
So,
people like us talking about the relationship stuff because they'll say to us, can you cover this topic? And they want to hear it from a
yeah,
man and woman, and plus different culture
right.
as well. And so for me, it was like looking back on, we did Passion, we did, when there's Three's a Crowd.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of all the ones we did, but there was so many of them, and I look back on them now and I think, wow, I'm so proud of them. So it was hard for me to take a break and not, because it was something I really enjoyed doing. And it's like, even now my life is complicated and not easy going. And I'm sitting here, pacifying a Polly Pooch beside me just to do the show.
sure.
And I think that people don't realize that when you do a show and you put it on like this because you enjoy doing it, but also you want to bring pleasure and help someone else,
Yes.
sometimes it's not easy. You put a very good face on, and underneath that is a very different one.
Yes.
So,
Along with the non-theme that I put up for the title, what would you do when what how the heck did I word it? I
what would you
said
do?
what would you do when? Did I put a when in there?
Yeah, there was a when in there or something like that. Yeah.
What do you do when what do you do when ... question mark. So, how about this? Um I think it would be, and this is a little la la land, a little fantasy land about things that I would love to see you and I do. Now, there are obviously things I will not say in public.
Yeah,
Oh, you guys, it's such a flirt fest.
I know.
Um, but what would you do if I would love to get you? See, we know what Great Britain is like, and we've talked about wanting to do some shows over there.
Yeah.
Maybe a run of shows on video, doing ghost hunting and castle hopping and things like that. Something we never talked about. I'd love to get you over here
Mm-hmm.
and throw you into a pair of jeans, which sounds just the antithesis of what most men would want to say. I'd throw you into a pair of jeans, put some cowboy boots on you, a great shirt, and you go around. You get in a pickup truck and you go around. It doesn't have to be a pickup. It could be, an RV. You go around the country and you see things around here,
I'd
and
love
you
to do
you
that.
go. I'd love to
Love
see
to.
Wendy in a little shit kicking boots and going out and seeing sights in America.
I do have the boots. I do have
You
them.
got the boots. Yes, you
I
do have
do.
boots. And there you go, field guy. Um, he said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. I tried, though. That's the thing, field guy. He's the 43-year-old virgin, by the way.
Now, if I disappear in a minute, I'm sure you'll carry on just as well. I'll be back, but I'm just.
All right, I understand.
Yeah.
So I would love to see you in. We do some series work over there, seeing sights, and you do
Love
series
to.
work over here in America. I'd like to see you. Maybe the sights don't sound to some people all that interesting, but all the sights I think of places like, well, of course, seeing the sights from the American Revolution. I get a Brit over here, and we're going to go see some American Revolution sites. I'd like to see. I'd love to see you at the Alamo.
Just so many places I'd like to see.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I've always wanted to come back. I've only been through Texas, Houston. So yeah, it's literally. But I'll be back in. You carry on, Scotty. I'll be back shortly.
All right. All right. Wendy's got some things. I'm going to take her screen down for a minute. So when she comes back, she's got some things to tend to with Henry, who is having a tough time. Henry is her basset hound, for those of you who don't know. He's getting into that elderly stage, and he's having some issues. And so she's trying to keep him comfortable. And oh, she's back. She's back. Let's
Of
bring her
course.
back in. There
Yeah,
you go.
he's he's 11, and
Yeah.
that was the thing. He had meningitis, and he has got arthritis, and he's struggling right now, and there's a lot of mobility problems now, and we are in that very difficult position of like, I don't know which way it's going to go. So my whole life is, as I said, when I started this a year ago, my life was very, very different to where I am now. And I guess in a year's time, my life will be very different, even so.
Yeah.
But, I want to travel. I mean, like coming over to see you and spending time with you is really, really important to me.
Yeah.
And my American friends too. And I haven't even been to Canada this year. My God. I mean, like, how much
Yeah, it's been one of those
I
years.
I love going. And so even, what I'm trying to say is that life is so, this has been such a shitty year. 2023 has been
Yeah.
so awful. I can't wait to see the back of it. I mean, it really, everyone I talk to has had a tough time or is having a tough time. And you just think to yourself, when is it going to end? And it's
Yeah.
not just political, and it's not just what's going on in the world. It's personal in your personal life. And I think sometimes with, we put a good face on, and we just, go out there and do what you can. But yeah, it's a lot of people going through breakups. I know right now, a lot of people are going through illnesses, a lot of people are going through financial worries. And I think that sometimes they log on to a show like this to, I was saying to you earlier on when I watched your other show, it's a very different theme. It's a very different element. And I wanted very much us to have the element that people come on and they could forget about their problems for a while.
Right.
They could just like,
Forget about shit going on around us.
exactly, and just have a
But then
better time.
again, we also tap in.
We
What we
do.
do is we want to forget about all the shit going on around us, but many times we tap into the shit that's on the inside.
Yeah.
And we tap into that for a lot of people. And a lot of people throw us topics, as you mentioned just a little bit
Yeah,
earlier.
I hope he doesn't mind us mentioning this. Rudy, I remember he was one of the shows we did. He was so appreciative that we covered a topic. And it was, I think about when you're rejected by especially someone you've been in a long-term relationship with.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, I try very much the two shows to keep them very different and have a different element because they're coming from women and with you and I. But I there's so many topics I want to talk about with you, and we just haven't done it because this year's been crap.
I know.
Um, and
I feel like at times like we're 26 episodes behind.
I know,
So
I know. It's like and like just even talking about Picard, how he wants to do more movies before his time runs out. It's a bit like us. It's like we need to catch up. We need to do things.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
that's what
it's hard work.
Patrick Stewart said that, didn't he? He said, I want there's one more film. He said, I think we could do. And he says, I'm just trying to stay in shape so I can do it. He didn't use
Mhm.
the word stay in shape. I'm just trying to be ready. And he's like, keep walking, I keep doing things. So yeah.
I also think
Um,
as well that since we've been off the air, I've kind of missed that Tuesday night element of like, it's my hour. I get to
yes.
do this, and I shut everything off. And up until recent times, I've not had, even now, I've not had that time to myself. And I know you don't get a lot of time to yourself because the kids and
Yeah.
everything. So I
I don't
think
even get radio time to myself with my
no.
kids.
So it just goes to show that we're still here. We're still trying
Yeah.
to get out there. And we love people to come up with ideas of topics they'd like for Robertson to look at. And I do have a few. And in fact, a friend of mine said to me, I think you and Scotty should tackle that issue. So it'll be a different element. So I said, I
Yes.
will bring that to him.
All right.
Um,
All right.
but I'm really sad that you're also not going to be here this November. You're not going to be in the UK, and I won't get to see
I
you.
know. We were planning on being there. It
Yeah.
may still happen, but I don't think it's gonna. I think it's
No.
being pushed off for a few months,
Yeah.
and mostly because my daughters want to want to go over there when the weather's nicer, when winter is not coming on in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, my daughters called me a couple of months ago and said, "Dad, we want to take you to Scotland for your birthday in November." I'm like, "Cool." And now the closer it's gotten, it's been like we've talked to some people and they're like, it's going to be really cold in Scotland in November. And a lot of the attractions we want to see are closed for the winter in Scotland. So they said maybe we should just move it into the spring. So
Yeah.
it might be March or April before that happens. And so we'll have to see what happens. And
Well, I
but it's
mean,
definitely going to happen. It just
it
got
doesn't matter what
postponed.
time of year you come to Scotland. You can't plan on anything because Scotland is, it does take the brunt of, I mean, Ireland's had terrible storms right now, like Ireland,
Yeah.
Southern Ireland and stuff like that. And then Scotland being at the top, they doesn't matter what time of year you'll come over. You could come over in the summer and it could have really bad weather. But I just think, if someone asks me what do I want to do, I mean, I'm sort of in the stage about my life. What am I doing? Where am I going?
Yeah.
What am I going to achieve? And taking this show along with me. And it's, I think this year, I don't know about you, it's given me a lot of time, not a lot of time to think about where I'm going in my life and what I'm doing. And we talk about subjects, we talk about other people's problems, we talk about our own life and stuff like that. And sometimes our own lives are really tough, and we have to make decisions which aren't nice, whether it's breaking up with someone, whether it's leaving something behind, whether it's saying goodbye to a beloved or whatever. It's like
Right.
it's tough going, and I hope that people always felt that when they came to our show that we covered things sympathetically.
Yes, yes. And I think that's why I enjoy doing the show with you. I've got to say to Annette Keenan here, I love Scotland. She says, wonderful people, gorgeous scenery. It's been a long time since I've been to Scotland. Um, Annette, you will know some of these people. The last time I was in Scotland, it was just we set our foots in practically and then stepped back out because we had other things to do and places to go. But it was with, and this is on a private note, Jeff Shilkin and Nate Westover. And at the time, Jeff's wife, Samantha. And we all rented a car. That was already, so the last time I was in Scotland, and frankly, yeah, it was the last time I was in Scotland, 2005.
When was the
And
last time I was in Scotland?
it was 2005, wasn't
Ooh, no,
it?
actually, it was. I'm trying to think now. It was 2013, and I'd actually gone up there with a gentleman, and quite a well-known gentleman, and who
Was
I
it
was dating at the time.
JC,
Yeah, it
the
was
famous
JC.
JC?
It was, yeah.
Nice.
And that was the first time I actually had ever been to Scotland, and I was like, wow. I mean, the rain comes sideways, and the car, like I was out in Melrose, and it was just so beautiful. But my God, the rain, and even the cows were like, trying to hang on to
Sure.
something. But it's a beautiful place, and I didn't realize I had so much Scottish history in my background.
Yeah.
Um,
You got
but
any Scot in you? Would you like some?
been there, done that.
So, what did we do? Yeah, we just touched down in Scotland. We just
Yeah,
barely crossed the border. We drove. We said, we're in Scotland. Let's go. And we did the same thing with Wales because
yeah.
we spent most of the time down in the South Country and Jane Austen territory. And
Very pretty.
then we
Yeah,
went over
very
to
pretty.
Stratford upon Avon and Oxfordshire. And
Shakespeare's country, right?
great,
Shakespeare's.
great times there. And we went up the old King's Highway up to Nottingham and Sherwood and
Nottingham.
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 And I think we got into Barnsdale and
Yeah.
Leeds a little bit. We kind of passed through. That's your Robin Hood territory.
Well,
more than
I've never
Nottingham
been
and
to
Sherwood.
Nottingham. I still want to see the Great Oak, in Sherwood
We
Forest.
saw that.
I
I've
have
seen that a
never
couple of
seen that.
times.
I mean, dated Robin Hood, just never actually gone up to see Sherwood Forest. And I'd love to do that. The history. I mean, there's so many parts of my country that I haven't actually seen yet. I mean, I went out to Belfast. I loved Belfast. The people were very friendly. It was actually in peacetime when I went out
Mhm.
there. But the history, when you
Yes.
see the murals and everything like that, it's like a completely different world. But there's so much of England I haven't seen, and like Cornwall, I've never seen Tintagel, which is where
Oh, yeah.
I've never done that. So I'd love to do that.
Cornwall. I would love to see Cornwall. Not only for Tintagel, and those of you who don't know, Tintagel associated with the Arthurian legends.
King
And then,
Arthur.
by the way, Tintagel, they kind of wrote it off and said, well, that wasn't the right time period and so
Yeah.
on. Now, there have been other things going on there archaeologically where they're saying this could very well have very easily been part of the Arthurian legend. And so Tintagel, I'd like to see
Hmm.
the supposed birthplace of Arthur. But
Camelot, yes. And
go ahead.
Camelot, don't forget, Camelot's in a very different place, isn't it, to what
Yes,
Tintagel is? And
yes.
but I mean, that's if you go to John O'Groats, which is right at the end of England, right at the end, you're literally stand by a post, and the wild sea is behind you, and you're at the furthest point of England. I've never done that. Never seen that. There's so much of Devon I haven't
I would
seen,
love
and
to do that.
I would love to see it, but it's quite a journey, like people think, 3 hours in when you guys travel is a big country, but over here it's like roundabouts, traffic lights,
Yes.
little cities. It's
There
very big.
was a book I read by, his name will come to me. He's a writer, Delint, Charles Delint, Delint. And he writes urban fantasy. So that's how they've kind of plugged him in. His books, like Moonstruck, where he combines modern day times with, Celtic lore, Native American lore.
Hmm.
He wrote a book called The Little Country, and it took place in Cornwall and out at the farthest strip of land. And he talked about a little town. I don't know if it's a real town there. I may have looked it up and it exists, but now I can't remember. Mousehole in Cornwall, little tiny bit of a town,
Yeah.
and that there were things that took place there, and in his story, and he was the one that first introduced me, and I used it in my Tam O'Hare book. He talked about the Manentole. It's the big standing stone with the huge hole born out of the center of it. And there was supposed to be something about the Manentoles that you could pass yourself through them, step through to the other side, and
Hmm.
you do some kind of incantation, and it would pass you over into a magical realm or the fairy realm, the realm of the Fae. And so I actually used that uh, um, literary vehicle in Tam O'Hare, because there's
Hmm.
a scene where he has to do that, pass himself through a Manentole. And so that's down in Cornwall and near this, out on this. And folks, if you don't know where Cornwall is, if you look at England, it's that little stretch that goes all
Right at
the
the
way
bottom.
out to the west of England. Well, as you're looking at me, it would go this way.
And you'd
So
like Glastonbury as well. Glastonbury is
I
somewhere
love Glastonbury.
absolutely love. I mean, it's a psychic on every corner, and there's
Yes,
so much history down there, and it's yet again it's near Somerset. It's on its way down there, and
yes,
Winchester's a very beautiful town as well. But there's so many places I haven't gone up the country. I haven't seen a lot of. Some of them I don't want to see. I'll just drive past. But there are a few things that I'd love to see, and I think that when I come think of your country, I'd like to come and see like Alcatraz and
yeah.
Graceland, very much so. But and I'd also like to see
Elvis is at
the
Graceland.
Grand Canyon, and I'd like
Yeah,
to see so many things like that. and the whole Wild West. I love all that. I'm drawn to the whole cowboy
You got to go
Wild
to
West.
Tombstone,
I'd love to
the
see
OK
that.
Corral.
Yeah, love to do that. I'm not really sort of big on the whole Disney, Florida kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
I can take that or leave
Yeah.
that. But Memphis and Nashville and places like that, I'd really like to see.
You would have to see if we did anything with a series like this at all. You'd have to see places like uh, the little bighorn, the greasy
Yes.
grass, the Custer battlefield area.
Hmm.
Um, it's still very not built up out there. It's a state park, or it could be a national park. You'd have to see things like now it's very changed over the years. I was there, if you remember, 5 or 6 years ago when I was in Texas,
Hmm.
Texas.
Yes.
We went over to San Antonio and saw the Alamo. And now it's very interesting. You see all these pictures of the Alamo, and this is where this famous battle took place.
Yeah, very.
The United States against Santa Anna and all the Mexican forces and yada yada. And right now, you go stand out in front of the Alamo, the beautiful, pristine photograph of it, and you just turn around and you're facing the downtown strip. There's a median there, and there's all the nightclubs are right across the road, and strip malls, and hospital next door, and it's all built up in the middle of the city. And it used to be out in the middle of nowhere
Yeah.
on the scrubland out there. So, but seeing the Alamo, you go inside there, you get a different feel. It's
And
like
Salem's another place. Like, I'd love to have
Salem.
seen Salem, but obviously now
Yes,
it's very commercial. And as I say, like Glastonbury, everywhere there's a psychic or giving you a reading. But
yes,
I would love to have seen, and the old parts of America, like Georgia and Charleston, and you know, Tennessee, Virginia, all that side I've always been drawn to, because it's the old part. And so New York, I wouldn't mind going to New York, obviously, and seeing that. But and San Francisco. um but there are other places, like, I mean, people go on about Florida. I've
hmm
never really fancied the whole, that whole, let's just go to Florida and go to these parks and stuff like
right.
that. Disney World, I mean, I'm sure it's
Disney
amazing, but
World's great. I've
I
been
have a
there with
Disney
my
World in
family, but
Paris if I need to.
I enjoyed Disney World. There were some magical times, really, with my kids there, my
Yeah,
family there,
can imagine.
and so we really enjoyed it. But it's not a place. If somebody wanted to see America, I wouldn't say, "Let's go to New York City and Times
Yeah.
Square," or "Let's go to Disneyland or Disney World."
Yeah.
I wouldn't choose those places. I'd choose the other places.
Mm.
Um, right now, we want to try to talk with my daughters, plan another family trip to go to the what they call the Colonial Triangle, or the
Wow.
Historical Triangle. It's in Virginia. It's Colonial Williamsburg, Yorktown, where the surrender in the Revolutionary War took
Mhm.
place, and Jamestown. And
Okay,
those
very
three,
famous,
uh,
James.
you can you can go stay, and you spend a week and you go see all those sites,
Mhm.
and that's pretty cool. Some of my ancestors settled right in that area in the early 1700s, coming over from Wales and London and so on.
Yeah, I wonder if my family, that's the thing I've often wondered. I wonder if my family have got any descendants, or predecessors out there, because literally, I have cousins in America. I know that. But most of my family seems to be next door, which I've discovered. They went to Canada. My grandfather was there. My great grandfather was there. My uncle went out there. So, um, and it was seen as the great. The new Canada was seen like as a, what do they call it? Land of plenty. Land of opportunity.
Yes.
So a lot of people went out there very early. We're England. Let's be honest. I mean, we're the mother country, and I mean, I've always wanted to see where the Titanic is, even though I'm terrified of boats and water. I've always wanted to just be directly up, above
Yeah,
it.
you'll never catch me signing up to go down on a submarine to see the Titanic. Ain't gonna
No,
happen.
Right.
I'm not afraid of much, but I
Oh
get a
my
little
God.
claustrophobic.
I
You
couldn't
put
do
me,
it.
what is it, 2 miles under the surface of the water
Couldn't do it.
in a little tiny submersible? I'm sorry, it's going to have to be like Star Trek or Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea or something. We're going to have some palatial submarine where you can stand up and you can go to your stateroom or you can go play
Yeah.
basketball while you're descending to the
Somewhere with a
bottom of the sea.
toilet.
It's not my thing. Uh, I
I mean, think about that. I mean, we actually talked about doing a show on, because we did the Titanic and people loved that show, but we did the Titanic and we thought about doing
yes,
a follow up about, the fact that how ironic is it is that someone who went down to see the
yes,
Titanic and ended up as part of that history now. I mean, me personally, I would love to see the Titanic. I would love to see it. But you're right. The thought of being stuck in a really small cubicle, hard,
doesn't
no
do it for me.
toilet. It takes you hours to get down. It takes hours to get out. I could do it, but what? But to actually just be above it, just to sort of see where it happened. For me, it's like, I would love to do that.
Yes.
Just tell them to beam you up,
So this is
Scotty.
where this happened. And uh, there are a lot of things I'd like to see and say this is where this happened. Um, my being a theologian, a biblical scholar,
Yeah.
studied biblical history. There's a place. There's places in Israel, of course, I'd love to see. I've seen a lot of places in Egypt that are associated with things I wanted to see
Oh God,
historically.
yeah, me too. I'd love to do
There's a
that.
place in Israel called the Valley of Elah, which is for thousands of years, well, at least 3,000, has retained it's being the site of where David fought Goliath, where
Wow.
that story originated. And you can go down into that valley yet today. And it's a small, flat valley between rising hills on either side. And they found the old Philistine military encampment site. They had built up walls and so on. They were
Hmm.
camped out there for a year. And so that those ruins are there. Um, you find the little stream that ran through where, according to the story, David stooped down and pulled stones out of the stream to fight Goliath. The stream is still there. It's still a geographical location.
Yeah.
Um, so you go stand in sites like that and you say, now maybe this story was enhanced. Maybe it didn't happen the way we were told.
Hmm.
Maybe it's etiologically it didn't happen at all, or maybe there's maybe it happened, but this is the site, and this is the site that's always been associated with it. For me to go stand in places to say this happened here,
Yes. To touch
uh,
it, to be
like when
part
I
of
went
that
to
history.
Scotland, one of the times I went to Scotland, up in Glencoe,
Hmm.
where the massacre took place. And you stand there and you say the air is palpable. You can feel it.
There's a
Um,
there's a pub in London and it's right on the docks and I can't remember its name. But they still have the ducking stall, where they would like duck women,
yeah,
and there was also the scolder's mask, wasn't there as well? That if the woman was too talkative or she didn't shut up, they would put the mask on her. But they've still got the ducking stall, and I would love to see that because that's something I'm very intrigued in is the whole thing behind witchcraft and witches and the whole persecution of women from it. And but to just go to see where women would be ducked in and if you
yep.
survived, you were then hung because you were a witch, and if you drowned, you were innocent. So you couldn't win really either way. um and but London is still so amazing. There's so many little places in London that you just cobbled streets and history everywhere you look. And I went to Liverpool a couple of years ago, and they had the Cavern, which is where the Beatles and other such famous
Yes.
people, and that was amazing. You go into the toilet, and they have got all the signatures, and you'll see like famous people, that have written it. And I remember like thinking, oh my God, this is where I think Gene Pitney was there, Cilla Black, obviously the Beatles are most famous, but it was just amazing. And Liverpool's also part of the Titanic's history,
Yes.
because she was there, and as well, and they've got like the Titanic Hotel, they've got the Titanic Museum, and as Belfast is, and so obviously Belfast is part of the Titanic history. And when you actually see the dock in Belfast that she was in, it's so big, Scotty,
Yes.
that you're just kind of like, I would have loved to have seen that beast of
Yes.
a ship. So even in my own home country, there's so many places that I'm probably never going to see. I'm never going to get to see in all of them. And I think you have to just pick your favourites.
You can
And I
pick and
mean,
choose.
when I went to Italy and I saw the Colosseum, and
I'd like to see the
I
Colosseum.
didn't realize how dirty the Italians keep their
Yeah,
buildings. But I mean, that's
those dirty
sincerely.
wops.
There's so much pollution, and even when they cleaned the Colosseum, it didn't stay clean long because of the pollution. But
Right.
when you see the Colosseum, and I was lucky enough the time that I went years ago, you could get into the middle of the Colosseum and sort of look out, and you saw where the emperor sat and would be like, and
Right.
you couldn't go where the gladiators were underneath, but you could see them. And then the Catholic Church put up a cross there to say, I'm so sorry for the millions of life that we took. And
All of
as
you
if
fed
that's
to
going
the
to make a
lions.
difference
Sorry.
for all those Christians. And also, I mean, they used to fill the Colosseum with water and float boats on it. And they still don't know how they did that. So when you go to Italy, it's a wonderful culture, but it's a very old culture like Britain. But the Romans obviously didn't like Britain because they tried to conquer us a few times, and the sea not kept. That
Right.
sea has protected us from so much. The Romans took, I think it was over 100 years to come back to us. But and then in the World War II and World War One, being an island with the Atlantic being so rough and so dangerous, it protected us from a
Yes.
lot. So we might be a tiny little island, but we were part of quite a lot of powerful stories.
Right. Jason talks about ancient Babylon would have been cool
Yeah,
to see while I was in
I'd
Iraq,
love to do that.
but I didn't have the time for sightseeing. Now,
Yeah.
totally different circumstances. It wasn't military, but I was up about an hour north of Salt Lake City for 4 months working a few years ago, and I wanted to go up to the Skinwalker Ranch, and
Yeah.
never made it up. Just
Oh
so
my
close,
God.
yet so far, and so we didn't make it up there. And
I've
there's
heard a
lots of
lot
places I
about
haven't
that
seen.
ranch, a lot
If
about it. It's scary.
so, what would you do when? Do you know what I'd do if I had the means and the wherewithal? I would travel and see all the things I want
Me
to
too.
see.
Me too.
I would. That's all I would do. I would go places. I would, backpack, knapsack. When the last time I went to Egypt, I take a backpack, a little backpack. I throw in extra pair of jeans, some socks, an extra pair of shoes, and a couple of shirts, my deodorant, and my toothbrush, and I'm ready to
Very
go.
important. Yeah.
And that's the way I like to travel. And because you can go anywhere you want, and
Yeah.
so to
We're
speak.
on this earth for a very short time, and I think that we always put off tomorrow. We put off today what we think we can do tomorrow, and sometimes we don't get that tomorrow, right?
Right. Elvis just said I was in Reno and wanted to go see the Bunny Ranch, but I didn't have time. We feel bad for you, Elvis. We know what
Oh,
that's like.
what a shame. Yeah.
Folks, we're going to wrap up this edition, but we're going to come right back after the end credits and we'll open it up for some calls. I see we got Professor Bauer hanging in the wings. We're going to bring him in. And if you want to call in, we'll have a little bit of time. Not long. We're not going to spend too much time, but we'll have a little bit of time after this. So we want to thank you all for being here.
Absolutely.
We're not going to go far. You all just sit tight because we're going to play the closing credits and we'll be right back. So, all of you, just sit tight. We'll see you right back here. Wendy, thank you for a wonderful show. Hey, and we're back, Wendy.
Hello.
How you doing?
I was just listening to that music going, I love that music. I really do.
I like that. I remember the day we stumbled upon that piece and said, that's got to
Yes.
be it. So,
Yeah. You picked it. You picked it because I hadn't heard it. And then you played it and I was like, oh my God. And you said, as soon as I heard that, I was like, that's the one. That's the one.
yes. Now, let me throw a link up. If anybody wants to call in, we're only going to do this for a few minutes, but we want to let you know that we're here to do a little after show. And if you want to call in, there is the link going up into the chat room right now. If you don't see it because you're over in Facebook, you might have to come over to the YouTube channel to catch that. So we've got Professor Bowers waiting in the wings, but his face is gone. His camera's gone.
Leave him out
We'll
there.
wait till he
Leave
comes.
him out there.
Leave him out there. We'll wait till he comes back in, and we'll bring him up. So there's Grumpy Grandpa Zenron Show. So there's Grumpy Stack. I believe that's Grumpy Stack. Who
I
else
met so
would
many
be?
new friends as well through Robertson. I mean, like I have so
Yes.
many more friends in
Oh,
America now.
Here we've got Jason Patrick. Jason, how you doing?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, no, that is not
Don't call me that.
at
Don't call
all
me that.
how I speak.
Yes. Here, let me get rid of the banner because it tends to get in the way. There we go. There we are. So what's going on, man? Nice
Not
hat.
much. Thank
Is
you.
that one that you made?
No, this is actually this is a Federation 4 by
Okay.
Akubra.
All right.
Specially made for I think it's like the Hattery or something like that. I can't remember the website name exactly right now, but
nice tie.
thanks, but my collar's all messed up, but
that's all right. We were talking about that before the show.
We
I said there are some guys who just don't know how to dress, and they're always messed up in their collar with a tie. I didn't mean you, Jason.
no, I'm wearing a chambray shirt. So what do you expect?
There you go. What do you do?
Yeah, right, exactly. And yeah, there are some guys who actually, there is a painfully large amount of men out there who do not know how to dress.
It's true.
This is true.
There's
It's
a
really
painfully large number of women who don't know how to dress either, as evidenced when you walk into Walmart or Target, if you want to church it up.
Yes,
I was
Walmart.
talking to a friend of mine, funny enough, about it the other day, and we were talking about the smell, because some people do not take care of their whole odor issue, and you're just like, oh God, you're really lovely, but just don't get too close to me.
Yes.
No.
That's why I keep a steady supply of things like Pinot Clubman, and well, I can't afford 450 an ounce or whatever it is for actual green Irish tweed from Creed. But along that line, I keep on hand.
I used to keep a little vial when I was smoking. I kept a little vial of my favorite. It was a 1821. It was a red tobacco smelling scent.
I'm familiar.
I
had a whole line of stuff.
What's that?
They had a whole line of stuff.
They do.
Yeah, I had their what was it? It was like Sweet Virginia Tobacco or something like that. That was They have a really great body wash.
The way to distinguish Jason and I from most of your metro, what would they call them, metrosexuals, we're not like talking about toiletries. So, Jason, what do you use to bathe? We're not talking about that. We're talking about man scent stuff.
Yeah.
And so
but it's not just
stuff. We'll have to ask
smell.
Professor Bauer when we get him in here what men scent things he uses.
It's like if someone doesn't clean their teeth enough and you stand next to them and you're just like, no, I can't do it, right? You just can't do it. And I think that, Scotty and I first did this, we've never actually tackled the whole subject of dating the internet dating, because it's a minefield. But it's like, you see someone, you see a good photograph and you think, okay, they look great, you go out with them, and then you're kind of like, oh, your photograph didn't have a scratch or sniff with it. I wish it had, because I wouldn't be here.
Well, one of the funny things, you bring up dating and that stuff. I dated a gal for a while, and I have always been a little more on the presentable side. I don't know if that's my military upbringing. I don't know if that's being a military brat in the upbringing. But if I went out in public when I was living in Waynesville, Missouri, outside of Fort Leonard Wood, it was pearl snap Western shirts and 501s with a rolled cuff, nicely, or at least reasonably shined engineer boot. And
you didn't want them too shiny, because you didn't look like you just went home and shined your shoes to go out.
Yeah, exactly.
You had to have a little to be presentable. You didn't want like food drippings on the toes of your
feet. Yeah, exactly. But the other, then I would have my hair nicely pomped, and the scout would always be like, "Why are you always dressing up like that? Where are you going? Who are you dressing up for?" And I'm looking presentable to go out into public. Like, what do you like? There is a whole element that we have lost in society of dressing in even remotely nicely. It looks like you're trying to dress up, and it's like, dude, if you go back to like we'll say the mid 60s is really where it started to stop.
Men were men. I mean, what I mean by that is, like, when you go out with a guy, you don't want him to have his arse hanging out of a pair of jeans, right? You really, really don't.
All depends on who it is.
Doesn't that depend on where you are? If you're like Chippendales, isn't that kind of standard fare?
But even so, there's some things that I want a mystery. I want a mystery, and it's like, what's behind? I'll tell you a little story. I was at the vets the other day, and there was a lady in there. God bless her. She had a bottom that was probably about 5 times the size. You could see it before you even came around the corner. She'd had cosmetic surgery on it. I kid you not. I took a photograph very subtly and sent it to my friend, and she was like, Jesus Christ. And I said, no, he couldn't even save that, because she had literally, her bum was here, and then her body was kind of like somewhere around the corner, and it was enormous. And I looked at her, and she had the lips done and the face, and I was like, we have lost so much.
Yeah, there's two kinds of Brazilians in this world.
She did all that.
There's the wax.
Make her look better. Sorry, Jason, I talked over you. What was that? I missed part of that. You froze up a little.
I was gonna say, I think he's froze. But I was glad I didn't know you guys were coming back on today. I was glad I popped on my phone when I did.
There he is.
Any more of these days, there's two kinds of Brazilians. There's the butt lift, and then there's the wax.
Oh God.
It was terrible, because like she literally had two beach balls. They looked like 2 beach balls in her bottom, and she was just kind of walking around, and I was like, you could actually put your dinner and a cup of tea and read the newspaper on it, and still have room to put your feet up.
Well, and you can see that, as JP was talking about, you go to Target or to Wally's, and you can see all these different expressions of physical humanity, and you look at it and you go, for me, I remember when I grew up in the 60s and 70s in Southern California. So we were in the free love, the real liberal movement, peace, music, all the great stuff back then.
Far out.
And just to have a little connection to the man smell thing, back then, we were first discovering this as teenagers and young adults, and so some of the ones that I got doused with far too many times was Canoe. Remember Canoe?
Oh, yeah.
Pierre Cardin.
Yep.
And you remember Musk? There was just a bottle called.
Remember Mitchum?
Yes.
Mitchum, and it was underarm deodorant for men. There was some guy with big hair.
You can still get it.
And he's laying, and he's laying in a bed with black sheets, and he's propped up on one elbow, and he says, I didn't use any deodorant yesterday, and I may not again today.
Oh, God.
Because he used Mitchum 3 days ago. And I thought,
that was the 48-hour formula.
I was like, so you mean to tell me you went the last 3 days without showering? You know?
I just don't think men, some men, and it's not just the top half either, boys. You know, sometimes the whole downstairs department, that needs a lot of work on it, because there are some guys that don't take care of themselves in that department. And us ladies were kind of like, we're not going there. No, we're not going to say hello.
Now, what do you mean by not taking care of it? Do you mean like not trimming it,
not washing it,
not
washing it?
Washing it? Who doesn't?
Who doesn't do that? I don't know.
Who doesn't wash it? Can I interject? My ex-husband got towards the end. It was like, oh my God, even get the heck out of my house because you stink.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the things when you were telling your story, Wendy, is about the size, and it was so large, and you look at it and you say, well, you could, put your meal on it. You could serve yourself on yourself. But when I see those things, and this is to JP's point about, the whole hygiene thing in general, when I see people like that and those kind of large Marge in charge kind of stuff, the first thing that comes to my mind is, how do you maintain that? Not in how do you keep it the size it is, but how do you clean it? I mean, when I see people that they clearly cannot get to their genital area they need help. There is something going on, or most likely there's nothing going on, which makes it really
the
sad.
trousers and the jeans. She was actually wearing leggings, and I thought,
oh God,
they always wear leggings too. Yes,
they were so, honestly. I just stood there and I was like that. I couldn't stop looking at her bum, and everyone else was looking at. And you know when you're trying not to look, but you're like,
but you're looking.
You're looking, yeah.
And
train wreck syndrome.
When she bent over, it was like an eclipse. Honestly, it was literally. She bent down to pick up some dog food, and I was just like, oh dear, no. Because you imagine. I mean, I'm going to be a complete lady about this, but that could suffocate you. They could suffocate you.
Oh yeah, you got to think how does anything get any air down there? There's no and if the air actually hit it, would that be a good thing or a bad thing? Do you need to stand back from the air that has just gone through there?
Well, she's not going to drown, is she? Let's put it that way.
Oh,
yeah, I was going to say, that's the only good thing. She won't drown. She'll float.
That's the one thing about being clean. I'm not a perfectionist about it. Like, I don't get my nails, done, or even for a guy,
Have you?
I've had a pedicure done.
Yeah, but you've not had a manicure done.
Because the pedicurist had big boobs and great cleavage, and she liked me. And this was years ago.
Are you saying that? Are you saying, Scotty, that under those conditions, the further she got to you was your feet? She never made it up to your hands. I mean, holy cow, what happened?
No, I didn't say that. But she was. all my guy friends referred to her as, the pedicurist. So she's still a good friend of mine today.
It's weird how people change though, because like when I was young and I went for my first bra fitting, and I was like, little tiny back then, and I remember my mum took me to the local shop, that you got your first bra from and everything, and he was a lovely guy, completely gay with the fairies. You know, he was lovely. But how he measured me was that he put his hands like this on my boobs and went,
That's
okay,
how I measure.
this is
Full
your
figure.
size.
And
I
I'm not
was
even
like,
gay.
I was about 11 at the time, and I never turned a hair, never thought anything of it, didn't think there was a problem with it, because it was like, he was like, no, this is what your size you are and this is what you're going to get. And now you look back and you think, wow, if someone did that today, they would be
You punch him
would
out.
be 34.
he was like,
No, C.
Well, you know, you touch on a good topic there,
do touch
because
on a good
we're
topic.
talking about, and no pun intended, or maybe, but with, you know, we were talking about men's stuff earlier. Now we're kind of transitioning into women's stuff. That is something that a lot of women do not understand this day, is how to be properly fitted for a bra. And I, having purchased a few undergarments for significant others throughout history, had to learn the quantum physics and Euclidean geometry that is.
It's the Euclidean geometry. You know?
It's insane. The
Extremely.
correlations and how that will actually contribute to comfort or discomfort. And, you know, you can tell when people are not getting fitted properly or
because they've
taking
got
the
like
time.
third breasts. I always think
Right.
that women should have a good fitting bra, because I don't need to see
what do you mean?
spaniels' ears. I don't need to see swingers, right? It's like you want them to, I want them to be up, right? And if
Nat
you
Geo.
can't get your scaffolding to get them up, like, you know, I mean, if
No,
you're
there's
really
a
lucky and
pocket
you've got
of,
fake boobs and you don't need to wear a
kind of
bra or
greenish
anything like
colored
that,
hair.
then fair play
Laying
to
out
you.
there,
But
kind of folded up.
I'm telling you, when
Check
they
the
say
pocket,
about putting a
and like you
pencil
come in there.
underneath them, I'm like, honey, I can do that. I can do a broom. You know, like, let's be honest. You know?
This is a funny conversation because Scotty posted about his new shirt. And I said, you forgot. I thought to myself last night when I saw it, I said, and he forgot to put on Boob Watcher.
Oh, yes. That shirt, yes. That was actually, if I may say, there was somebody who I knew pretty well, very intelligent woman, ran some events and things like that. I spoke at some of her events, and she did not like my politics. And she told me that I was, it's right on the shirt. What the heck did the shirt say?
Oh, jeez.
The shirt said, she told me, as she wrote to me, that you are an unabashed, supercilious narcissist.
Yeah.
Oh,
Holier than thou
Supercilious.
narcissist. Oh, and she said boorish. So I was a
Boorish.
boorish, unabashed, supercilious, holier than thou narcissist. And I said, "Why you put a lot of adjectives into one sentence there?" And so I. What?
Was she British? Because I don't hear American women using
Wasn't
words
British.
like that very often.
that's true.
That's
Wasn't from
true.
the
I
South.
made
I was going to say, us New England.
I made that shirt for her, and I sent her one. Nothing in it.
But you got to add Boob Watch. Whoops. Sorry, we have a kid in the room. Sorry. You have to add that
Hold
to
on,
your next shirt.
You keep talking. I gotta put myself on mute here.
The one that really makes me wonder if she were British was the use of boorish.
Yes.
Yeah, nobody in the States uses that word in any sort of regular fashion.
That's because we have such wonderful vocabulary over here. You know.
Oh, no, you absolutely do, and I have long
we know
held.
how to say words. You know.
Well, you did create the language. Like, I have often said that Britain and the U.S. are two countries separated by a common language.
Very true. It's very true. But we have a special relationship. You know that. We love you guys, but we are the mother country, and don't you ever forget it.
I always love the
we
memes
got to
of the Queen around
get
4th
over
of
this
July.
country, dear.
Yes. We used
Just
to tease
saying.
John Ward miserably. We say the 4th of July. Oh, John, it's the 4th of July. Oh, that's right. That's when he curls up into the fetal position in the corner. And and says, "God save the king! God save the king! God
Yeah.
save the king!"
My, the colonies are feisty today.
Oh, uppity colonies.
I have to say, Wendy, I like Scotty's idea. Get you over here a pair of jeans, cowboy boots, and see the country.
Yes.
Do you know, I actually have the jeans, I have the cowboy boots, and I even have the hat somewhere. Because obviously, when I was in Calgary,
She
Cowtown,
does.
you
Yeah.
know, I lived that life for
Yeah.
2 years.
I was gonna say, if you don't have the boots, I'm sure in my grandmother's old tack shop we can find a pair of brand new Tex. What are they? Texas, whatever the heck she used to sell.
Hey,
Well, I'm
Cobus.
hoping that next year is the year. I mean, I really was hoping to come over, but this
Yep.
is going to be impossible this year. So now
Yep.
I'm looking forward to, but I mean, I'm in that quandary, right? You know, I'm still sitting on the fence about whether to just sell everything and just move to Canada and go back to Calgary. You know, I'm in that sort of catch-22, and
If I can make a recommendation,
Yes.
okay.
and I'll admit a lot of this is purely science, just purely for science. You ought to
Sure.
wait till the next pandemic is about to hit, and then come here and get trapped here.
Yeah.
There it is.
Oh
And
yeah,
we can
there
watch,
you go.
we can watch her slowly unravel mentally.
Yes.
Well, the next pandemic will be next year because the election's coming up. So
True. True.
Murder Mitten says, Wendy, that you need to have alligator boots and a Stetson on the roof. There you
Oh,
go.
I like
Alligator boots.
alligators actually. When I
No
was in
Stetson, but sorry, Murder Mitten, no Stetson.
why no? Wait a minute. Why no Stetson?
Stetson
Stetsons are cool.
is, I would say Stetson
Navi.
was a good hat 50 years ago.
I love
Okay.
Stetsons.
I
Stetsons are
think you have
cool.
much better hat ears that are out there. First, let me name a couple. First of all, John Penman, who I get all my fedoras from.
Oh yes. Yep.
Top of the
she'd look
line.
good. She'd look awesome. Wendy would look awesome in one of those.
She would.
Thank you.
And then you've got sitting right here with us, JP, Jason Patrick.
I'm a novice. Don't even.
He's starting to
Well, I
learn
tell you what,
how
Jason,
to create.
if you want to
Look
make
at this
a hat
fedora
for
he
me,
just made.
Oh wow,
That's
made
beautiful.
that one.
that is
I'll model it.
awesome.
Now he's working on it. And by the way, I had a conversation yesterday about you, Jason, with
Oh,
John
Lord.
Penman, with John Penman.
Really?
And he said, if you want any pointers, want him to look at your stuff, tell you what he did, because he is a stitch Nazi. And he said, this is what he did. He said, so many hats he would make and take them apart and start all over again.
Yeah.
And he said, if you want to get his good, honest input, send him a hat.
Okay.
And he'll look it over. And he said, just tell your friend. He says, I'll be brutally honest.
If I were to do that, and I may actually shoot him an email, because there are things that I would really love to get, like, so the hat that I was showing you guys, I'm building for a young guy in Tennessee.
Yes.
Met on one of the indie forums, and working the brim to get a dimensional brim, even with a rounding jack, is like tricky.
Yes.
And of course, we're always our own worst critics, right? I sit here and I'm like, I see every last flaw.
Well, if you make a
Yeah.
hat for me and Scotty, we will promote your work because we're just
There it is.
Wendy needs an off-white hat.
Okay, but I'm going to put it out here and now. I am not one of those guys that has any desire to build like the Johnny Depp special, where it's like, look at this hat that I have all of these things tied onto, and I've taken a branding iron too, and now let me run some stitches through something. Like, no, I hate that
you
stuff.
Make me a really nice black
I like a
hat
pure, clean
of
fedora.
cowboy Stetson type. Well, I'll have a photograph naked with just that hat covering.
I think you
Why
need
do
an
I feel like
off-white
that would
one,
like come
Wendy,
around
not
to bite
black.
me in the ass at some point? I feel
Well,
like
I'll be like, so what are you wearing tonight? I feel like JP. I feel like JP.
I'm wearing my hat.
The thing is, the hat, JP, they'll have to be made out of beaver.
There it is.
Well, you know what? Like, so everything that I build right
You
now
went there.
is rabbit. It's rabbit fur felt, and it's great to
Is
work
it?
with.
Oh, okay.
I've messed with wool. I don't like working with the wool. Just switching from wool to rabbit was huge in terms of just ease of work and quality of stuff that was coming out of it. I have yet to buy a beaver fur felt or even a beaver rabbit blend.
So you're telling me that you boil bunnies? You know, you get bunnies and you use the bunnies.
Yes.
I don't. Somebody else makes the cape lines.
Makes the
I-
yes.
Yeah, but I mean,
Oh,
I
yes,
do
you
have
make
enough
it.
rabbits and bunnies in my backyard throughout the year that I probably could make a hat. But
Yes.
and they ate my roses one year when I planted
Oh,
roses,
gosh.
so I kind of wouldn't feel guilty.
There you go.
A man's
And-
a bunny boiler.
Imagine how many beavers have sacrificed themselves for somebody's fedora.
Or his Stetson. He got it.
No, it's
What?
a restaurant.
Oh, it's a restaurant. Sorry, wrong brand.
So you want to get a good fedora, a good hat, go to Penman. Just go to penmanhats.com. Penman, Penman.
Well, and he
.com.
owns the Adventure Built line now, right?
Yeah. He has for years. He's owned that. Yes.
Yeah, he
But
got
the
that from those
Stetson
guys.
people.
He also owns Everyman hats,
Mhm.
and that's what he did for when he was because his hats are not cheap, and they shouldn't be for what he puts into them. You could buy a Penman hat from $400 up to $750
Mhm.
or more. And so he
Well-
started this line of hats that came all he had to do was bash them into shape, but he had them pre-made. And so his Everyman hat
Where are you at?
would cost you about
Tremendous.
$250 to $300, somewhere in that range.
Well,
So-
No,
you
you're
know,
weird.
JP, like the offer's out there. I mean, I'm just saying, but the offer's out
Okay,
there.
well, I tell you what, get with Scotty. Both of you guys get your head size measurements, and then
I
we
can
can.
take
Okay,
measurement.
I've got a good photographer.
I don't even-
friend. We'll take some great pictures to promote, and we'll bring it. Over here we'll be transatlantic.
well,
Well,
blend.
and
I tell you
to
what, you
make
should
it more
make it.
fun, and considering, I can tell you appreciate older vintage things, especially how you've talked about London and things like that. The car you drive.
So that's
So,
why she let Scotty in
That
there.
car
so
is
this
awesome.
this grow grain ribbon that I have here, it is a rayon cotton blend from the 40s.
nice.
Wow.
So when I try to stock up on things like grow grain ribbon or Pedersham or things like that, I try where I can to find vintage because it looks completely different
It does.
than the newer stuff that's made out of more modern materials.
My
All
my
of the dark brown that I use on my indie fedoras, like nobody makes a brown this dark in new stuff. I mean, this is almost black. It
Isn't
might.
it a great one to have around, Carlene? You can just go, so what color would you put me in? What color what suits me? And he goes, well, let me think. I'm just going to go out to my trunk. And oh, look, I happen to have one here. And this would look perfect on you. And you'd be like, wow, it really does. Why aren't more men like you? Because seriously, we would
Yeah.
marry men like you because then we would be like, this is great,
You haven't seen the rest of my house and my garage. That's why.
Penman made that.
I'll be completely honest.
Colored fedora for me. It's a whiskey color, which is it's now kind of faded a bit in the sun. Not faded's not the word. It's melded a bit into a little more of a light brown color, but it's whiskey. And he put a ribbon on that. That was, he said at the time, was a 70-year-old vintage ribbon.
Yeah.
Wow.
That he put for the hat band. And it was not a whiskey colored ribbon, a light brown of some kind, but not brown.
Right.
If you catch it in the light, it's got reddish colors in it.
Yeah.
That thing is sweet.
It will make or break a hat. Like I see companies out there that are making like, and I'll go back to it because it's what I've been messing with the most, the indie style like Raiders fedoras.
Mhm.
And it's always like they've got the felt in sable. It's the correct sable. Well, if you really look at things, it's a lot darker and it's more like this.
It is.
But the hat band is always like ends up this totally wrong color of brown, or they go with black.
Oh, they go with black.
And that goes back to that there's nobody out there that I can find so far that makes my running joke with people who ask me to do this. I'm like, they're like, what color's the hat band going to be? And I'm like, well, it's going to be the correct, like almost black, dark brown. They're like, well, how dark is it? And I say it's so dark that it sucks the souls out of the well of souls. Just to throw an indie dad joke in there with my.
Now, Penman said he learned when he first started learning to do his indie fedoras, he learned from the old guys who made them for the first movies.
Yeah.
And that's where he learned his.
So like Herbert Johnson's and those guys.
I couldn't name them for you, but that's who he learned from. And he is very particular about his hats.
Oh,
and,
I haven't actually handled like a penman, but looking at the photos, you can tell. You can see the work that goes into it. You can see the quality of it. It shows. And one day I will have a penman.
I think it's before I go, and I have to go shortly, but it's like literally it's nice to see a guy who takes care of himself and has got the whole outfit, because I went on a date with someone last year, best first date ever, and I'll always say that, because he had perfect suit, perfect shoes, he smelled and looked so good, and he was just amazing. And I remember thinking, men like you are so rare, but you've really made an effort, and he was like, you never let me buy anything. He was just made me laugh all the time, and he had the suit, the handkerchief, in the suit. It was amazing. And it's just like, they are a rarity. Men like that are an absolute rarity.
I want to figure out how to bring that back. I don't know how to do it other than just doing it myself.
You need to do that. You need to.
I was going to say, yeah, you can't bring it back. We moved down to Virginia, and I've seen more friggin' underwear on guys with their pants down near their, ass crack. I'm like, if I wanted to see your underwear, just walk out without your pants on, get it over with.
Where in Virginia?
We're down in Prince George.
In Prince George's County?
Yeah, Prince George County, Prince George Town. We're about 30 minutes south of Richmond.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm from Northern Virginia originally. So Fairfax, DC metro area, stuff like that. And just drive north. You'll see more.
No, thank you. I've seen enough for the last couple of days. I've seen enough. I'm like, I thought that went out. Like I said, we're originally from Vermont, and that went out couple of years ago up there, and I'm like, I guess they're a little behind the times down here. When my grandmother was alive, we'd go to the store. We had to dress up. We had to put our makeup on. We had to fix ourselves up. Yeah. You didn't leave the house to go down street without being tidied up and neat and tidy.
Yep.
I wrote a little article for Penman for something he was doing several years ago now, and it was about haberdashery. And about hats and haberdashery and men's clothing. And I don't remember exactly what I said in that, but I was making the point that the American male uniform has turned into T-shirts, oversized khaki shorts, tennis shoes, and baseball caps.
Or jeans,
and I
jeans
said, now,
hang down their arms.
Or jeans. And I said, no, that's comfort wear. Yes, I get it. But everywhere you go, that's what men are wearing.
I have actually, with the kid who's buying this hat, like, we got talking about a lot of things. He asked me all kinds of questions. How'd you get into this? What's this? How do you do that? And I explained a lot of men's fashion type stuff to him. It's like, oh man, okay, this kid's 18, 19 years old. Like, perfect opportunity. Start wearing and measuring for this. You want to look for these sorts of things. Like, I remember he sent me a picture of like this jacket that he's wearing. It's like some, like sports bike type jacket, not like a Shots Perfecto 613 1 star from, the wild one or something, but you have way too long in the torso. The sleeves come down too far. And it's like when you're getting something, you want to have certain things. Like when you grab the steering wheel, you don't want your sleeves going up here. So like you don't want to go anything further than the middle of the hand. Like, get something shorter in the torso because, you have this kind of a build. So it's like those kinds of things, like those elements need to be reintroduced.
Yes.
And they're not handed down.
Showing their physique off as well, because so many guys don't show that. I mean, everyone's allowed to do casual, of course they are, but so many. To have a guy who shows his physique off, so the trousers or the jeans fit him properly, and you can see his arse. You can look at it and go, "That's a nice bum."
And it's like you were talking earlier, where it's like there's a little bit of mystery. There's enough of there for a hint. Where it's like when you look at women's clothing or even like some of the women's lingerie compared to stuff from the mid 60s back to probably like the late 30s, right? That mid-century modern era tail end of the post-war going into that kind of stuff. There's a lot of sensuality that is built in there, but not everything is just hanging out to the world. Right. It leaves something to the imagination. It makes you think. And I was always kind of raised with the fact that your brain is the most powerful sex organ you have.
Yes.
Use your mind, and but people don't get that these days. It's something that's not being passed down generationally.
So JP, I've got a question on that. It makes me think about it. When you think about the clothes and these outfits, and particularly when you were talking earlier about the woman that that Wendy had encountered, how large she was.
Yeah.
When you think about what are clothes, you get down to the nut of the nugget. What are clothes? They are covering for the body for various reasons, purposes, sometimes stylish. Hopefully there's some of that, but at least at a minimum, it's utility, right? We dress for what we're going to go out into the environment and encounter. Now, the choices of that, I learned a long time ago that my first factor, the first filter is comfort. If whatever I'm wearing is not comfortable, then that it's just not, no matter how good it looks.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If it doesn't feel comfortable, I'm not going to wear it. So I got to the point where I found a threads context of what works, what kind of pants generally work, what kind of shirts, and there's a theme to the way that those fit. The stuff that everybody is out flashing around right now, I don't see any of it how it can be comfortable. So these people must not give a damn about comfort. They've pushed the meter and the filter over to the style side.
Yeah, I look good, but that's the thing though, is if you get even casual clothes, if it is cut properly and you get it something that fits well, drapes well on your frame, it will still look good and it will be comfortable, even with dress clothing.
Let me know when you get the hat, Jason. I have to go now, but let me know when you get the hat, and make sure it's big enough and it fits enough, and
Wendy, hailing back to an earlier part of this,
I need the measurements.
I do.
He's going to need the measurements.
Hailing back to an earlier part of the conversation, I do hat fitting.
Just tell Scotty what they are.
Let's see. You're about a 7, and no, so. I do hat fitting.
I can honestly say when I first went to Canada, before I have to run, but when I went to Canada, I was a very different size to when I left Canada, because they have a lot of hormones in the beef, in the Angus beef, which and ever since then it just changed my physique. So thank you, Canada, because I went from being one size to another, and that was great. But no, I'm serious. I would love that. I would love a Stetson sort of thing. Let me know. And it's been fun with you boys tonight.
You'll have to fly over and measure her up, Jason.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph. I will say this: if I'm going to make you a hat, and it's going to be anything vaguely Stetson signed, it's going to come open crown and flat brim. I'm a firm believer, except in the case of like doing something that's specifically a Raiders. I'm a firm believer in shaping your hat on your own, because that puts you
Okay.
into the hat.
Control.
And it because it's something that you wear, it's a part of you. And so you put your personality into it and get your bash the way you want it, your pinch the way you want it. You want to put more curl in your, whatever, that it's an extension of you. And it's, and when it's hand built, it's even more so that sort of thing. It's just like old cars. You've got somebody who's sitting there on an English wheel running, a fender through something, shaping it. That is energy and soul going into that versus, the robot stamping something.
It's the same as the Impala. Like, I never changed her. She's original. Like, I never saw her. She's a redneck. Why would I want to change her?
That's
but
right.
She's
but
a
listen, it's been
redneck.
so much fun. I have to run, but I will.
Wendy has got to go. So we're
I've
going to
got
call
things
this
to
show
do.
for
Get
tonight.
Scotty your head measurements, and I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
I'll talk to you. I'll measure you up.
And Wendy, I was ready for Sunday. I was showered, shirtless, and commando,
I was
and I was
so
ready to go.
sad. And you know what? Val was taken ill for half an hour before we were due to go, and so yeah, it was gutting. But hopefully, we'll be here. Fingers crossed. This Sunday coming, and I think it's the Halloween one, so we might all be wearing something really nice.
There you
Well,
go.
I'll be sure to come showered, shirtless, and commando.
There you are. And folks, that's going to be it for today. Wendy's got to run. I have to run. And Jason and Professor, thanks for being here. Everybody, will catch you next Tuesday for the next Robertson. See what you've been missing. And we're going to get out of here. So I want to thank you all for being here. We'll see you next time. Live long and prosper.